Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squad for boxing news and views from around the internet. This is the post-fight reviews for the Junior Fa vs Devin Vargas fight, as well as Hemi Ahio and Joshua Tufte. These were on a fight card in Utah that was headlined by Fa, with Ahio the co-main event. So the two New Zealand heavyweights were strong Tongan heritage. They were dubbing the event the Toko Takeover. They got the wins in the end, but we'll start with Junior Fa. So if you were to not have watched this and you saw the scorecards, which was 100 to 88, 99 to 89, 97 to 91 in favour of Fa, all three judges' scorecards, you might be forgiven for thinking it was not a competitive fight, that it was a one-sided drubbing, but that was actually far from the case. And actually, there were two knockdowns for Junior Fa in this fight, but it doesn't necessarily reflect how competitive it was at times. There were rounds that Vargas was actually having a lot of success, and Junior Fa was caught with a number of left hooks during the fight, and he was backed up and hurt at times. But early on, Junior Fa looked like he was coming out quite strong. The first round, at least the first half of it, reminded me of the fight against Fred Latham. Fa was clearly coming in to be aggressive. He wanted to get an impressive performance under his belt, a knockout against the guy in Devin Vargas who, prior to this fight, had 5 knockout losses on his record. So by going the 10 rounds in this one, this becomes the first time in a loss for Vargas where he survived in a losing effort. But Fa was actually having some good success early on the first couple of rounds, catching him with some good right hands, uppercuts, that he was getting some swelling in round 2 on Vargas's face. But it was these left hooks from Vargas. He landed 3 in round 2. And that was the same shot that Dominic Gwynn caught Junior Fa with in their fight a few months ago, where Junior Fa got dropped in there, got off the canvas, and ultimately got the decision. But it was clear from this fight, as well as obviously that Gwynn fight, Junior Fa is susceptible to the left hook, and we'll come to that a little bit later. But round 3, it really fired up midway through it. Fa was backing Vargas up with a vicious uppercut, followed up by an overhand right, and there was about a minute left on the clock here, and Fa was just unloading on Vargas, and you could have got the impression that this was going to end in this round because he was really pouring it on. But Vargas hung tough. He threw some nice body shots of his own. Eventually, Fa led him out of the corner, off the ropes, and they ended up playing out that round in the middle of the ring. And it was from about round 4 where I wondered about Junior Fa's conditioning, because he was far more passive in that round. And it was easily the best round of the fight for Devin Vargas, who was pressing the action. He landed a nice uppercut, a left hook in the round. He was outworking Fa, and that was pretty much the only clear round that I gave Devin Vargas in the fight. And I was wondering if the inactivity this year had caught up with Junior Fa and the extra weight for this fight. He was weighing significantly more than he was for his previous half a dozen fights or so. He'd been thinning down over 2018 and the first part of 2019 to get his weight in the 250s, which has looked much better for him, around mid 250s, but he came into this one 267 pounds. And in round 5, which really was a seesaw round, Vargas started strong. He appeared to hurt Junior Fa with a left hook. Vargas was swarming him, landing some nice shots, and Fa was really just trying to cover up, back up. And then out of nowhere, Fa drops Vargas with a vicious body shot, and Vargas beats the count. And some of the veteran tactics, because remember, Devin Vargas is a guy that's been around the block a number of times. He's 37 years old. Coming into this was his 27th pro fight, and he really did pull out the veteran tactics here, because the referee directed him to sort of walk one way, then walk the other, and then he spat out his mouthpiece. So all in all, he beats the count, but ultimately he got about 30 seconds of recovery time, and he was able to sort of see out the bell. But not only that, he backed up Junior Fa with another hook right near the bell. And round 6, he opened up strong again, clipping Fa with a few uppercuts and right hands. But with a minute to go, just out of nowhere, Junior Fa just lets his hands go. There would have been 10 to a dozen punches, and he catches and backs Vargas up. He looks to be hurt here. And then round 8, we'll just skip past it. Round 7 was relatively sedate. Out of nowhere, Vargas just hits the deck, and it sort of looked like he was claiming it was a low blow, but it was really hard to say, because the replay, it didn't really indicate that it was a body shot or something low that sort of hit Vargas. It looked like the punch that sort of landed on Vargas was a left hook, but nowhere near sort of the body region. So maybe it was some sort of delayed reaction, but yeah, he hits the canvas again, a second time in the fight. And at this point, heading into round 9 and round 10, both looking tired, losing shape, but Junior Fa generally just a bit more in control. And by the sort of tenor of the review so far, you would have got the impression Devin Vargas was in the fight. It was a fan-friendly fight. So obviously, Fa getting a wide UD, 2 knockdowns, and one judge giving him all the rounds, plus obviously the 2 knockdowns, making it 100-88. Another judge giving Vargas 3 of the 10 rounds, which might be a little bit generous. But I'm a little bit torn on the performance because the reality is Devin Vargas is a sort of high-level journeyman, but he's a guy that you should look good against and you should beat, and most likely by knockout. And Junior Fa, he did say in the post-fight review that it was a tougher fight than he thought it would be. And that's the way it ended up proving. I think there was the opportunity for a statement in this fight, and I'm just not quite so sure that he hit the mark. I mean, the rounds, he went all 10. He looked good in different spots of it, but overall it wasn't a dominant or polished performance by Junior Fa. A little bit scratchy at the times, but also the defense of the left hook, it was an issue, and he was clipped with it multiple times in the fight. A couple of times he did look hurt, clearly sort of buzzed by what Vargas was throwing out there. But Devin Vargas himself, after about 4 or 5 rounds, he looked pretty tired, and Junior Fa, ahead of this fight, said he wanted to take advantage of the older Vargas, who he thought would tire in the fight, but he wasn't really quite able to dominate maybe in the way that you would want him to have dominated, because Vargas, the crafty veteran, was able to stay in the fight and land some clean, effective work of his own. But overall, it was a good, fun fight. But at this point in Junior Fa's career, he should be putting away guys like Vargas, this sort of level of opposition. I sort of liken it to Jermaine Franklin versus the likes of Jerry Forrest and Rydell Booker. If he wants to sort of really get the hype and buzz behind his name, both him and Franklin need to be taking care of the sort of level of opposition that they've been facing to really get to that next step, because on the strength of this performance, I'm not sure that anyone will be saying that Junior Fa is going to be a dominant heavyweight in the division. It certainly remains to be seen. Another development fight, he moves to 19-0, but it wasn't exactly a clinical or polished performance. Not maybe in the way that a lot of fans would have been hoping for, because obviously a big guy, 260 pounds, 6'5", good hand speed, relatively light on his feet, good skills, but he just didn't quite put it together for long enough stretches in this fight. But obviously there was some positives out of this as well. I did think that he looked quite patient in there. He didn't look to necessarily rush his work when Vargas was hurt, but there were times where he could have gone back to the body but didn't. Maybe he should have been throwing a few more combinations. There was a lot of sort of 1-2 punching. But overall, it was a good fight. Maybe not the sort of statement that Fa would have liked to have made, but he did say in the post-fight that he's going to be training harder. He wants to fight better fighters in 2020. He'll be working on his craft, and he says he hopefully will be back in Utah. And the commentary team, they had sort of said rather optimistically ahead of the fight starting, this was at the top of the broadcast, that Fa is just a phone call away from a title shot or a big fight. Maybe a bigger fight is more realistic. Certainly a title shot, I don't see that in the offing for 2020. He's got to have a couple of bigger wins on his resume to really get in the conversation. Sure, he has this WBO ranking, number 7. To get to a title shot, he's got to do a little bit more, in my opinion. And the way things are sort of shaking down in the heavyweight division, next year is going to be sort of a year where the champions will be defending their belts, mandatories, all that sort of stuff. So it sort of looks like most guys in the heavyweight division will be frozen out of a title shot in 2020. But it's an opportunity for Fa to put himself in position through bigger and better fights, and he does need a bigger name and a better resume, I think, before he gets to a title shot. Devin Vargas at this level is probably one of the better or the best win on Fa's resume, but he needs more. In terms of the other New Zealander on the card, Hemi Ahio, he was fighting Joshua Tufte, and this was a relatively sort of competitive fight for the first round or so, with Joshua Tufte looking to trade with Ahio and not afraid to throw body shots and try to counter Ahio. He was trying to work his jab, but none of it was phasing Ahio, who kept coming forward, and it did pay dividends near the end of the round. A short right hand, it drops Tufte, who ends up beating the count, sees out the round. It was quite late in the round. Round two, it's sort of, after that first knockdown, it looked like it only may be a matter of time. And it effectively was. Ahio getting 2 more knockdowns en route to a stoppage win. It was a right hand to the temple that knocked him, Tufte, down about 30 seconds into the round. Moments after he beats the count, is back up. He's caught with a right hand, and it almost looked like it was, I don't know, a delayed reaction or something. It was a very sort of strange knockdown. He sort of wilted to the ground in a funny manner, and it was all over. So Hemi Ahio advances to 16-0. Overall, a good win, but this was an overmatched opponent, so he should be going in there and doing a number on him. Sort of, I think some of the performance here was maybe what Junior Fa was hoping for against Devin Vargas, but unable to sort of get that stoppage win. But Ahio, he punches hard. He's an undersized heavyweight, but he's starting to make a little bit of noise in the division, and performances like that will help him. What did you make of these two fights? Junior Fa grinding out a decision over Devin Vargas, and Hemi Ahio stopping Joshua Tufte in 2 rounds. Drop a comment, loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.